on Charlie Kirk. So we are 1 month from Charlie Kirk's shooting. You guys, September? Anyway, a lot has happened. So I knew of Charlie Kirk, but I'd never bothered to listen to him. If you don't know, I was a serious, devoted, evangelical, charismatic Christian. The happy clappy lot. Roughly from about 2012 to 2022, when suddenly it just felt off for me. Anyway, this video isn't really about that. It's quite a serious video, but I just thought I'll throw it out there that I'm one of those people who is part of the growing Christian deconstruction movement, meaning I'm now in the fringes, but I still have some connection to it all. That's why I knew of Charlie Kirk without paying much attention to him. I did hear a small part of his debate at Oxford from another deconstructor account. And from what I saw, I simply saw Charlie Kirk as a conservative Christian, which is something I'm very familiar with, and I lived it. What I wasn't aware of were his viral messages about his views on women and marriage, or his scathing remarks about Martin Luther King Jr., about Black civil rights movement, and on Black women. And when he talked about Black women, I took it subjectively, as I'm a Black intelligent woman myself. And he doesn't look like me. So I'll be thinking, gosh, why be so harsh? Just so you know, I only found out about these remarks after he had been shot, from the vitriolic uproar to the celebratory posts from his fans, and to those who had justifiable critiques about Charlie Kirk and his controversial debates on social media, which may have slightly swayed me to take his comments personally and negatively. Social media algorithms, you guys, they truly didn't help. But they do say sensationalization is what drives social media, and controversy, clickbaits. And for a moment, I actually thought, the stories about him being shot were clickbait. And it took me a long time to even watch the video because I didn't believe it. Anyway, so to make matters worse, all I saw after that was an ex of mine who is Black and lives in Africa posting on his WhatsApp status how sorrowful he was at the death of Charlie Kirk because he was an avid fan and follower. And would you be surprised to know he's an evangelical Christian? So we kind of debated some of Charlie Kirk's controversial views, and he ended up calling me someone who has gone far left. To think I almost married that guy.
Down the aisle. She's the first peel. Bride seems to be a bit hesitant. She's turning. Oh, she's running. There she goes. She likes the dumb.
And in that week, I'll probably say in a space of 2 days, there were then several WhatsApp statuses posted by congregants from my old Black African church, all about their deep sorrow over Charlie Kirk's passing. It was only then I saw the magnitude of Charlie Kirk, his affiliation to the Make America Great Again, the MAGA movement, and the rise in Christian nationalism in the USA. I think he did say, you can call me a Christian nationalist.
I've never described myself as a Christian nationalist. So I'm a Christian and a nationalist, so I've never used those two.
And then right there, that and nationalist.
So launching into a Christian nationalist screed after saying you're not a Christian nationalist, you're just a Christian and a nationalist, is not very convincing. It just shows you're a Christian nationalist who, for whatever reason, doesn't like the label Christian nationalist.
Candace Owens then posted a YouTube video as well on her friendship with Charlie Kirk, which did help connect the dots for me on how she met her hubby, George Farmer, who was, guess what? The chairman of Turning Point UK, an offshoot of Turning Point USA, which was run by Charlie Kirk. My point in saying all this is to show how influential, connected, and powerful Charlie Kirk was. Even though he was unknown to many people, his organization, Turning Point USA, was able to mobilize young voters, especially young men, helping Donald Trump win the election, helping the Republican Party win the election. No wonder Trump called him a great American hero at his memorial. Charlie Kirk was obviously important to Trump and the Republicans. Anyway, I was very upset, sensing a lot of residual anger rising in me in the aftermath of his death. And this anger was like twofold. So there was anger related to religion, and also as a result of some of the conversations I had with African MAGA supporting evangelical Christians, which I call AfMAGAs. What was worrying me was how intractable this anger felt. I became obsessed with people talking about Charlie Kirk on social media platforms, Even when I was at work, I was consuming volumes of messages all related to Charlie Kirk. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was like I was like spiraling. My close family belonged to the MAGA supporters, and I quickly realized that I didn't want to argue with them or view them differently over a difference of opinion or a difference in opinion, over religious views or political views, because to me that's dumb.
But it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
Yeah.
It's dumb. Come on. So I just wanted to get to the bottom of this tension, this discomfort, this anger. And I honestly felt like there was a warning bell that was just about to go off inside of me. And therefore, I decided I'm going to address this, which is why you're seeing this video today. I've done a lot of work, So I examined the rhetoric back and forth regarding Charlie Kirk's message, because part of me wanted to be compassionate. I wanted to understand why my family who support him do, because one of the things that we want is to go into defense, and I didn't want to do that. And by listening to Charlie Kirk's messages, it truly opened my eyes. Literally, it humanized the person of Charlie Kirk to all that was being said about him on social media. And what did I come to realize? I came to realize that Charlie Kirk was liked and loved by many. Of course, mainly Christians, Republicans, but he was liked by those with conservative views as well, with no religious affiliation. In the same vein, Charlie Kirk was disliked and hated by others. Some, of course, from the left, as not all leftists hated him, and surprisingly, some MAGA supporters, Make America Great Again supporters, such as the Groypers, led by Nick Fuentes.
It does put things in perspective when a person dies. Politics is vicious, and that's just the game. He was vicious to us. We were vicious to him. He was never particularly nice to me, let's just say. But he was to a lot of people. He was kind of my nemesis in a way. And maybe I was his on the right wing. But I realized that we had so much more in common than we disagreed with, actually, even though he was my adversary in politics. But I don't see it as a contradiction. I disagreed with him. I still disagree with the things he said. And my views on him from a professional point of view hasn't changed. I didn't like what he advocated for politics, but he advocated for Christianity. That's the part that people are going to remember him for. That's the part that people, when they think Charlie Kirk, they don't think of the Republican debate bro. They think about a guy that was preaching marriage, values, decent Christian values, Christ himself and his sacrifice on the cross. He was Protestant. I'm Catholic.
I also saw that Charlie Kirk seemed very committed to authentically live out his message in real life, which is commendable. And his wife said he was a good husband, telling her daily, "How can I serve you?" To me, it's an odd statement coming from conservative Christians. He was also a husband and a father, which reflected his pro-marriage, pro-family views, which to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Charlie Kirk was liked and supported by many black and brown people, which negates ideas of him being racist. If Charlie Kirk was indeed best friends with Candace Owens, as she called her brother her best friend, then he may not have truly believed the things he said about black women. I don't know. He did hire Candace Owens and promoted her in Turning Point USA. She was his communications director, I think, and I'm sure she wasn't an affirmative action or a DEI hire. Yeah, so maybe he just said those things to be controversial. They were talking points.
I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA.
On top of all that, Candace is black with all these white racist followers. She's a Mason on the Charlie Kirk Foundation that he said straight up that black women are not as smart as everybody else. Great point. It's weird. It's weird.
Charlie Kirk had MAGA supporting LGBTQIA people following him too, just like there are some Donald Trump supporters from the LGBTQIA community.
That's voting for Trump.
Just acknowledge life was way better when Trump was president. Why do gay men get bullied when we express a difference of opinion from what the mainstream thinks we should be thinking?
I'm constantly being told that Trump hates gay people and he's homophobic. But if that's the case, why is there a growing segment of gay people who actually like him and are going to support him in this 2024 election?
I think from what I saw, one size doesn't fit all. Now, Charlie Kirk did share a polarizing message because it did truly cause division, because it became a them versus us, a right versus left, which is still going on, a MAGA versus Groypers within the Republicans supporters themselves. a men versus women argument. However, in the same breath, we cannot deny that his message also united other groups of people. As a deconstructor myself, it was shocking for me to see evangelicals uniting with Roman Catholics, Mormons, and seeing themselves as one united front for Jesus, all in their support for Turning Point USA. If you know much about Christianity, you know that these people don't share beliefs, even if they believe in Jesus. So he did cause unity. Look, I really believe Charlie Kirk probably had an unseen cool side to him, but Turning Point USA kind of overshadowed that.
Always some hip hop mixed in, ignition, remix.
And we can make him about to have you some fun. Bounce, 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 bounce. Lace like murder, she roll. Once I get you out the clothes, privacy.
Look, it's only certain people who can sing the lyrics to Ignition, bounce, 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 bounce. Just saying, you know? R. Kelly, come on. So my final verdict on Charlie Kirk, he likely was an intelligent guy with charisma and some gravitas who fully believed in his Christian faith and convictions that he dedicated his life to spread his message. And he found a void to a growing quiet sentiment in the US, in the world as well. Come on, African MAGA supporters.
Nearly 60% of Nigerians are pro-Trump. As president, he reportedly referred to African nations as shithole countries.
Did you address his reported comments from earlier this year when he reportedly used vulgar language to describe African nations?
Well, the best thing for me is to keep quiet. We didn't discuss it. And you do have some countries that are in very bad shape.
Yes, I know he said that, but that doesn't really change my perception about him.
You said you admire him?
Yeah, I admire him.
If I should be in America, I will vote him. There is a saying in Nigeria, a wealthy man will always have followers.
Be bold and confident.
A strong willed person, he knows what he wants, he stands by it and he goes for it.
I like the way he talks. I see that he has good plans for Americans.
To many Nigerians, however, Trump represents something more important, the defense of conservative Christian values.
People like me, Donald Trump is our choice. Donald Trump has that very charisma to talk people into agreeing with what is right.
As the spectacle of the election plays out in America, Nigerians are watching closely. In this culturally and religiously diverse nation, support for Trump is far from universal. Second term in office would give many here a cause for celebration.
And he championed this message. Even though it was polarizing, it is very sad that he had to exit the world in such a tragic way. May Charlie Kirk's soul rest in peace. Now, looking at Charlie Kirk's messages and how this affected me is where his message strongly reminded me of situations from my past where I was negatively impacted by racist treatment and racist sentiments. Charlie Kirk's views actually brought this to the surface. So there were issues of unresolved anger at the racist treatment under my ex-mother-in-law that started to come up. I talked about that in my last video. Go watch it. In fact, there was a deeper issue, more than I even realized, that still triggered me when it comes to just racism. I started to remember when I was younger watching Roots when I was a teenager and finding myself so upset and angry at that time that I had to stop watching it. And some of Charlie Kirk's rhetoric on the civil rights movement reminded me of Roots and the history of racial injustice. It all became so convoluted that I was no longer feeling safe with all the division rising in the world. And as somebody who's quite empathic, I could really sense that. They want us divided and hating each other through offense, is what I will say. They fill in the blanks. I don't want to be part of that polarizing hatred and division. And a fun fact, in the week of Charlie Kirk's death, leading up to the day of the London far-right march, I met a friend of mine of about 17 years. I've known her, who happens to be white American. We had an amazing get-together that she organized. And do you know what? There was no love lost between us. We know each other, we like each other, and we receive one another as people. That, I've just realized that you have to differentiate yourself from those who want to cause hate and division. This shows that those with an agenda want us to focus on our differences to create chaos in the world. I do not condone racist views, neither do I condone Charlie Kirk's polarizing opinions and sentiments. However, I want to remain a loving person who believes in humanity and who believes that there are many good, loving, and welcoming people out there in the world, like my friend is, and like other people are, like other white people are, and like other Christians as well. They may not be loud or favored by social media algorithms, but nonetheless, they're there. They exist in all races, and they see, they respect, and they love the humanity in others, treating others with dignity despite having opposing views or religious sentiments. Look, I am a trained nurse. I could not have done my job well if I segregated people. It would have been impossible. Look, I had to put the needs of their health above what I felt for them. And this is where we need to get to. Now, what does this have to do with healing? How did Charlie Kirk heal me? I started to discover how much the hate behind racism makes me so angry. I discovered I hate anything that spews hatred over someone else, over someone, based on something that they cannot change or are born with, such as race. Remember, in my last video, I faced that. I'm a very sensitive person. I can easily pick up on the emotions of others, especially those with a heavy charge like hatred. And the root to racist views is dislike and hatred of anything we believe to be inferior to us, that we don't humanize it. It is a very uncomfortable and draining energy which weighs you down. This is why, for me, I struggle to hate people, because it just weighs me down. And this is why people who have hatred try discharging it by taking it out on others through anger or inflicting harm on others. So usually through like anger, which goes into rage. The problem with racial hatred is its corrosive nature. It corrodes the container, fuels the rise of fascism that we are seeing now. If you think about it, it just seems to be going around, meandering into continents, peoples. It's an energy that seems to need more hate to grow, which I believe is why people with hateful views like to recruit more people with those views, or they will indoctrinate them with similar views and then demand loyalty. Surprise, surprise. I actually think being hateful creates more insecurity in the carrier of the hate, as humans are not created to be reservoirs of hatred and darkness. You can debate me in the comment section if you agree or disagree, but I don't think we were created to have a heart that carries hatred and vitriol towards other people, which is why people who do wrongs end up most times committing suicide, because I don't think they can face themselves. Now, to the victims of racism. If we walk around with unhealed traumas such as racial trauma, it creates wounding in us that can unconsciously affect us, affect our self-worth, our self-esteem, and how we see ourselves in the world. This wounding can cause internal hemorrhaging, the nurse in me, which is internal bleeding, as I've just described, which makes us show up without confidence, and we show up with a sense of fear of others, a fear of the world, or we hemorrhage onto others, where we spew our hate onto hate, creating more division. We've seen that. We've seen that if you try and fight fascists with riots, it just creates more chaos. That's why healing is essential for humanity's sakes and for our own sense of safety within the world, of course. But I know we have to still apply good boundaries and discernment. You don't have to go, oh, while in the face of danger, I'm just going to be fighting it with, not showing. There's times when you're called to run. You're going to have to run down. Just saying. The thing is, racial trauma, same as racism, can both be passed down generations, which is why healing of the generations is not only critical, but it is also potent and powerful work. Besides, things like racism, xenophobia, discrimination, misogyny, and prejudice, they're not going anywhere. If we look at our world history, these things seem to just be recycled and manufactured, and they show up differently. but they're not going anywhere. As long as the earth exists, there will be the contrasts of dark and light, good and evil, you name it, day and night, you know? And this is why I created a meditation aimed to help bring healing to racial trauma so that we can center ourselves. You center oneself, you quiet the noise and tension from the outside world with regards to offense, with regards to division and racial tension. And this is exactly what I did in the last month. And the results have been phenomenal. They've been tremendous. And I'm sure you can visibly see. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk. I see him in positive light. I'm not sticking to calling him names. I stopped obsessing about Charlie Kirk or desiring to constantly argue with those close to me or with opposing views about Charlie Kirk. I can now sit in the tension and the discomfort of strong polarizing opinions that may cause offense and division without being negatively triggered or reacting in anger. I've done the work, right? And this meditation I've created is going to do the work in you too. Because if it's not Charlie Kirk, if it's not what we see on TV, if it's not some panorama drama that we watch about racist police, you're going to meet someone on the street. You're going to encounter somebody with racist views. You can't escape it. So you want to equip yourself to a point whereby you will meet them and it will just bounce off you like a Jedi, like I did in my last video. And you just be like, oh, gosh, I sense the spirit, but it's about them. It didn't affect me. It didn't wound me. It will help you even when you do things like apply for jobs where you think, oh, people will not accept me because of my skin color. It helps rewire your brain. It helps rewire your mind. It helps rewire your thoughts, especially if you are somebody who always goes to the negative of, I'm facing racism. They're going to be racist towards me. I'm going to face injustice. You start to see yourself differently. And that's what I did. That's why I created this meditation, which is very healing, I must say. Since I did that healing work, since I did my meditation, I started to listen to Nick Fuentes as I wanted to know who are the gropers. Obviously, this was triggered by the fact that the guy that they say shot him, they say he was a groper. I think I need a cup of tea for this one, what I'm about to say. I need a cup of tea, so bear with me. Admittedly, I quite like Nick Fuentes. Even though I don't agree with all his views, I have listened to him and I've learned so much. I've also felt very challenged by some of his views. And when I say I've been challenged to become a better Black person in this world. I kind of always felt this way, but Nick Fuentes cemented this for me. He cemented that we are not victims unless we choose to be. Yes, we may encounter unjust treatment, but do we stay pointing a finger as victims without any action towards our own improvement? Or we can choose to act and victoriously walk in our power, depending on the situation, of course. Obviously, as some things require legal measures implementing, but we have to be willing to step into our God-given power. Now, this is to my Black people. You need to step into your God-given power. And I think the season, the time of life that we are in the world right now, we can no longer stay being victims of what happened to us in the past. I think that story needs to change. It's not denying that injustices are there. It's like me, I'm a woman. There's so many men who are misogynistic, you name it. But I don't walk out in the world thinking that's all that I'm going to face, do I? Right? I have to be alert and discern. And if I do meet that kind of person, is it worth me fighting? Is it worth me just going, gosh, he's got a problem? But carrying on with my life, carrying on my self-improvement, carrying on the things that enhance my growth, that enhance my becoming better. And I think that's what people like Nick Fuentes, by listening to him, did for me, which actually has some parallels to Charlie Kirk's message to a point. I know these things are polarizing, but we've just got to do the work of self-improvement. There's no escaping now. Now, prior to not knowing about Charlie Kirk, I wouldn't have been able to stomach some of the things Nick Fuentes says and remain objective. I would have been resistant. Now, I'm like, okay, let's hear the good points and see how I can apply them to my life. Now, that's what I call powerful healing work. You can't deny that. And a strange thing, I'm actually listening to some of the points that Candace Owens says. And I'm like, okay, we don't want to be self-hating Black people, but she's got a point. Bootstrap ourselves up. We need to do that. Of course, there's certain things that we cannot necessarily change because there's systems and structures in place that will probably take years to dismantle. But then we shouldn't have excuses in doing our own personal work to empower ourselves, to emancipate ourselves, to think differently, to not be victims. We shouldn't give excuses for that just because there's a system in place. I don't want to come across as insensitive because I know there's people who live in countries where structures and systems actually affect them. And my heart and compassion goes out to that. But if we are more empowered and equipped, we can champion their causes better, right? So I will be putting a link to this meditation in the description below. You can use this meditation to deal with issues related to racial anger and injustice, or anything where you felt victimized and it made you go into sort of self-defense and anger. It is also applicable to use in addressing anger in general, as this stuff works, and I'm proof of that. And I especially use this on an issue I had with someone in the past, and I could feel that come up, that anger come up out of me, freeing me. So click the link in my description and start your healing today. This meditation will heal inherited generational anger, generational traumas from within caused by systems of oppression, racial injustice, and racial inequity. I will say it is important that you read the instructions or listen to the instructions before doing this meditation so that you can get the most out of it. Okay? As Martin Luther King said, hate cannot drive out hate. Let's not allow division to win, starting with this small action today towards healing. Because when you're healed, you don't want to use hate as your modus operandi. I hope this video has raised your curiosity and also unveiled a level of healing in your heart. Let's go deeper together and experience freedom. The goal is one healed individual to many healed in the collective. Can you imagine a time where Black people will have a different story? Yeah, some of us might not be alive to see it, but let's begin the work. The same way people like Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King did. They started the stories. And look where we are now, guys. If you've seen this video up to this point, I want to say thank you. I am Fatima, a life coach specializing in helping women build personal confidence using self-development tools and techniques. In my videos, I explore relevant social topics, such as this one, to deliver empowering messages that encourage you to live authentically and in alignment with your core truth, values, and life principles. In this channel, we want high vibrational, light values, core truths, and life principles because they make us better humans. My passion for this work, it stems from my own journey. As you can see, I once struggled with low self-esteem, poor self-image. I faced racism. Come on. I had no confidence. I feared using my voice. And therefore, I gained a lot of valuable insights through these life lessons and experiences, which is why I now share a lot of wisdom to help other women thrive. I believe that by sharing this wisdom, I can inspire and guide you to step into your most powerful, confident life where you stop settling, but actually receive what you want and desire. Most women, we struggle with knowing what it is that we want or desire. Well, I struggled with that. Or we think it's not okay to want the things that we want and desire. Systems of patriarchy. It's ancestral too, by the way. But I'm here to help and guide you to navigate the walk, to step into your wants and your desires, and still be in this world. If after watching this video or watching my videos, you feel inspired to explore your own personal struggles, I offer personalized coaching and accountability to help and support you in achieving your dreams, goals, and desires. You can reach out to me via the link in the description. I look forward to supporting your journey towards empowerment emancipation and liberation. That actually makes me excited. So, to end this video, I just want to say it's important that you love who you are and know that God designed you as a masterpiece, worthy to be in this world. Offenses, hatred, and division distorts that. And the real potent power, it is in fully affirming who you are within, despite what the naysayers say. If you believe it deeply in your core, somehow it fortifies you. And I go into this deeply in my meditation. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe so that you and I can become YouTube friends. Remember to comment, as I would love to know your views, and please be respectful. This is just a YouTube channel. Don't take things personally. Stay safe, take care, and bye.